20 everyday habits that could be hurting your brain. Have you ever stopped to think about how the little things you do every day might be messing with your brain? I mean, we all have our routines, some good, some not so much, but it's wild to realize that some of these habits could actually be chipping away at our mental sharpness or even our long-term happiness. Now, get ready. Not getting enough sleep. First up, sleep, or the lack of it. We've all pulled an all-nighter or skimped on shut-eye to binge a show or finish some work. But apparently, when we don't sleep enough, our brain doesn't get the chance to clean house. It's like leaving dirty dishes in the sink for weeks. Eventually, things get messy. Without sleep, our attention, memory, and mood take a hit, and it can even make us more prone to feeling down or anxious. I'll admit, I'm guilty of this sometimes. Late-night scrolling is my weakness, and the next day, I feel like my brain's running on fumes. Do you ever notice that foggy feeling after a bad night? It's no wonder they say sleep is like a reset button for your mind. Drinking too much alcohol. Next, we've got excessive alcohol. A glass of wine here and there? Probably fine. But if you're going overboard regularly, it's like handing your brain a wrecking ball. It messes with how brain cells talk to each other and can even shrink parts of your brain over time. There's even this condition called Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, fancy name. Scary stuff. Linked to heavy drinking and vitamin shortages. Personally, I'm not a big drinker, but I've seen friends get carried away at parties. And it's a reminder that fun can have a cost. Moderation's the key, right? Smoking. Smoking's up next. And yeah, it's bad news for more than just your lungs. The smoke cuts down the oxygen your brain gets. And all those chemicals in cigarettes stir up trouble, stressing out your brain cells. It's linked to dementia and Alzheimer's, which is honestly terrifying. I've never been a smoker myself, thank goodness, but I've got family who've struggled to quit. Seeing how hard it is to break that habit makes me think we need more support out there for people trying to kick it. Your brain deserves better than a nicotine haze. Eating junk all the time. Okay, let's talk food. A diet full of sugar, greasy fries, and processed snacks? It's like feeding your brain junk mail instead of a proper letter. Too much sugar can mess with how your body handles energy, and bad fats can rile up inflammation in your brain. I'll confess, I love a good burger now and then, but hearing this makes me want to balance it out with more veggies and fruits. It's not about being perfect, it's about giving your brain the good stuff it needs to keep humming along. Living with constant stress. Stress is a sneaky one. When you're stressed out all the time, your brain pumps out this hormone called cortisol, and too much of it is like poison to your memory and learning. It can also mess with your sleep and mood, creating this awful cycle. I feel this one personally. Work deadlines and life stuff can pile up. And I notice I'm snappier and forgetful when I'm stressed. I've started doing little breathing exercises, and they help a bit. What do you do to chill out? Sitting around too much. If you're not moving your body, your brain's missing out too. Exercise gets blood flowing, bringing oxygen and nutrients to your head. Without it, you're more likely to feel sluggish and even risk bigger problems down the road. I'm no gym rat, but I try to walk more, like taking the stairs instead of the elevator. It's not just about staying fit, it's about keeping my brain happy. How do you sneak movement into your day? Not drinking enough water. Dehydration's simpler than you'd think to mess up your brain. Even a little dryness can make it hard to focus or remember stuff. I used to be terrible at drinking water. Coffee was my go-to, but I've started keeping a bottle on my desk. It's crazy how something so basic can make a difference. Do you ever forget to hydrate? Or am I the only one? Being a loner too often. Humans are social, right? So when we isolate ourselves, it's like starving our brain of connection. Loneliness can creep in, and it's tied to feeling down and losing mental sharpness. I've had times when I've pulled back from friends, not on purpose. Just life getting busy, and I felt it. Catching up over coffee or even a quick chat makes me feel more alive. Upstairs. How do you stay connected? Glued to screens all day. Tech's awesome, but too much screen time? Not so much. It can mess with your attention, memory, and sleep, especially if you're scrolling before bed. I'm totally guilty of this. My phone's like an extension of my hands sometimes, and I've noticed I'm less focused after a long binge. I'm trying to cut back. Maybe read a book instead. What's your screen time struggle? Skipping breakfast. No breakfast, no brain fuel. That's the deal. Skipping it leaves you low on energy and foggy-headed. I used to rush out the door with just coffee. But now I grab at least a banana or some toast. It's not gourmet, but it keeps me going. Do you make time for breakfast? Or are you a skipper too? Ignoring high blood pressure. High blood pressure's a silent troublemaker. It can hurt the blood vessels feeding your brain, raising risks for strokes and memory issues. I don't have this myself, but it runs in my family, so it's on my radar. Eating better and staying active seem like solid ways to keep it in check. Have you ever thought about your blood pressure? Carrying extra weight. Obesity's tough on the brain too. Extra fat can stir up inflammation and mess with how your body uses energy, which isn't great for thinking clearly. I've had my ups and downs with weight, and it's a reminder that taking care of myself isn't just about looks, it's about my mind too. Small steps, like cutting soda, feel like wins. What's your take on this one? Bumping your head a lot. Head injuries, even small ones, can add up. Think concussions from sports or accidents. They can lead to serious stuff later, like memory loss or mood changes. I've never had a big injury, but I bonked my head on a cabinet once and saw stars. It makes me more careful now. Helmets and caution, worth it, right? Overdoing the coffee. Caffeine's a tricky one. A cup can perk you up, but too much leaves you jittery and sleepless. I love my morning brew, but I've cut back on afternoon cups because I'd lie awake at night. It's all about balance. Your brain doesn't need a caffeine roller coaster. How much coffee do you drink? Not challenging your mind. If you're not using your brain, it gets rusty. Things like puzzles or learning something new keep it sharp. I've started doing crosswords, not great at them yet, but it's fun. Letting your mind coast feels safe, but it's boring for your brain. What keeps your mind ticking? Using drugs long-term. Drugs, illegal ones or even misused prescriptions, can really mess with your brain's wiring. They change how you feel and think, and not in a good way over time. I've seen people struggle with this, and it's heartbreaking. Getting help is so important. Have you seen this affect anyone? Breathing dirty air. Pollution's sneaky. It gets into your brain and stirs up trouble. Like inflammation. Living in a city, I notice the smog sometimes, and it's unsettling to think it's hurting my head. Cleaner air's worth fighting for, don't you think? Always thinking negative. Negative thoughts can reshape your brain for the worse, making stress and sadness stick around. I've caught myself spiraling sometimes, but pulling back with a gratitude list helps. It's not cheesy, it works. How do you shake off the gloom? Ignoring mental health. Mental health matters, and brushing it off can hurt your brain long-term. Depression or anxiety left unchecked? Not good. I've had low spells where talking to someone made all the difference. Reaching out's brave, not weak. What's your take on this? Juggling too much at once. Multitasking sounds cool, but it fries your brain. Switching tasks constantly leaves you tired and scattered. I've tried doing less at once, like just writing this without checking my phone, and it's calmer. Are you a multitasker or a one thing at a time person? Phew, that's a lot, right? These 20 habits show how the little choices we make every day add up for our brains. I'm not perfect at avoiding them. Late nights and screen time are my kryptonite, but knowing this stuff makes me want to tweak things. Maybe more sleep, less doom scrolling, and a few extra walks. What about you? Which habit hit home? And what's one small change you might try? Our brains are pretty amazing, and I think they deserve a little TLC. Let's keep them happy together.